What's going on, guys? This is DIVIJ. Welcome to my first ever podcast. I'm joined here today with the amazing Dan Swint, aka Daniel Swint. Is your real name Daniel?
Daniel.
Daniel, cool. So, Daniel, you want to tell us what you do?
Yeah, I do hard money, which means I do private asset lending for real estate investors.
Cool. And you're an account executive, or actually a lead account executive at MOR Financial.
Correct.
Which is a notorious company. It's been doing deals for, I think, 13, 14 years now?
11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. Over a decade.
Over a decade, yeah.
Over half a billion lent. So.
Cool. So you've been in the game for a while, but private money was not your first career, right? You sort of were in a different industry prior, so.
Totally different.
I think it was timeshares, is that right?
Started in student travel, which basically is spring break.
Cool.
Did that in my teens, early 20s.
Right.
When I left that, I got into timeshare by chance. I just looked for sales, vacation sales, and timeshare came up.
Cool.
So I did that for about 8 years.
Awesome. So I definitely want to get into all that, but I kind of want to start like way back in your life, sort of, early on, because Dan Swint, you've been around for, how old are you, like 43?
42.
42.
Easy there.
So what was your, I'm curious, what was your childhood like? Where are you from?
From Sonoma.
Sonoma, okay.
So that's Northern California. It's about 20-ish miles north of San Francisco. Most people know Napa Valley.
Yeah.
The valley to the west of Napa Valley is Sonoma Valley.
Are you a big wine guy?
I grew up with it. So to me, you just drink it.
Were you drinking as a baby, or was it?
Maybe through my mother's milk, but my family didn't drink a lot, and we weren't of the wine class. My dad was in construction. My mom stayed home or worked retail, and we had wine. It was around. We had little bits of it. I'd say I can remember being 12, 13, 14 in my early teens, having a couple sips at Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever. My grandmother was absolutely against any drinking, not for an adult, but we didn't drink around. We didn't have a sip of wine around her. But at home, sure, we had a sip here and a sip there.
Cool. And
it wasn't a big deal.
Gotcha. What was life like in that environment, being in the wine country? And I don't know if your parents traveled a lot, but was it sort of?
Yeah, so my dad traveled a lot for work.
Okay.
He was a project manager for a very large construction firm that worked for the military, the federal and state and city governments. So he built runways, he built underground steam systems in Philadelphia and New York. So he traveled quite a bit. We would go with him sometimes. Our family vacations were to Lake Tahoe, but I grew up on 16 acres.
Cool.
And for a 12-year-old, an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 into your teen-year-old kid, 16 acres and an entire mountain behind you that you can disappear into for a day.
Yeah.
And just do whatever you want. That every day was a vacation, if you will, because I could just go.
Just do what you want. Yeah, I feel like the creative juices probably were flowing a lot, especially like as a child. Like you're in this huge environment with trees and animals and all this stuff. Like,
Yep. That's
sort of get lost in your own world.
Well, you can just go, and there's nobody there to tell you not to. And in those days, quote unquote trespassing, I was a kid, and there wasn't any danger in it. I think most of the quote unquote neighbors in the area that had hundreds of acres around us knew. It's just what we did as kids in the country. It's different when you grow up in a city,
Sure.
People are very aware of their boundaries. Up there, if I hopped a fence and went onto somebody's 150-acre farm or property, they didn't know. And as long as I didn't destroy anything, they didn't care.
Yeah. That's really cool. I feel like it's very different from where I grew up in Orange County, where it was, you've got these sort of, what's the word? Not rich, but like, what's that word for people who are sort of stuck up, like rich people? Starts with a P.
Yeah.
Privileged.
Privileged.
Yeah, sort of in that privileged environment where, if you try and, like we had this where I grew up, there was this big park and there was a gate.
Yep.
And if you go past the gate, there's this like gorgeous trail taking you to the park.
Right.
But you're not supposed to go down that way.
Right.
So we would like hop the fence and go over.
Okay.
And if neighbors saw us do that, they would call the cops, and it would be sort of like, we felt restricted.
We had the cops called on us a few times.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I shouldn't say that. We heard shotgun shots.
Oh, God.
Back then it was rock salt.
Yeah.
They weren't shooting at us. They were just scaring us. Bottom line is, here's what I think, man, and I could be wrong. I'm not a sociologist.
Sure.
But when you have, I know this to be true. When you have people living in closer contact and closer environments, in other words, you're backed up house to house to house to house, and that one area is a community area.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody wants to be in everyone else's business.
You want to tell us a little bit about what you do as a lender?
Yeah, so we do private money, and the biggest difference, or hard money, if you will. What that simply means is that we have private investors who allow us to use their money, and we are a conduit to borrowers who are investing in properties and fixing and flipping those properties for profit. They then pay back the lender.
Gotcha.
Instead of using a bank and making 2%, the fund brings in 7 to 10%, depending on the investment.
Gotcha. So it's like hard money loans. It's basically you're lending out capital to people doing fix and flips or cash out refinances, and basically giving them the capital quick so that they can get in and out of their deal.
We're not going to have to deal with everything they have to deal with at the bank, because we don't. Those private lenders aren't asking for the same kind of. You don't have to jump through as many hoops because it's private money.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
And you were telling me before we got on the podcast that you did over $500,000 last month.
Yep.
Which is pretty good for your for your fourth month.
Yeah. First full month.
Wow.
First real full month feeling solid in the seat, and already rolling this month. So.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
feeling the vibe.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I feel like I have a couple friends in the business, and obviously I'm in this business as well, and it's extremely difficult. So that's awesome. Last question before I know you got to go to a meeting, but last question I had was, if you could prescribe anything to anyone in the world that they had to do for 30 days, what would that be? What would you prescribe them?
It's a great question. It would be to travel. Solid for 30 days. I mean, I would say travel a lot more than that, especially when you are younger.
Yeah.
But go alone. Travel alone. Not with friends. Don't go to meet anybody. And go to a place that you're not totally comfortable with. Right?
Sure.
Don't travel to Vegas. That's not traveling.
You're not saying go party. You're saying go soul search.
Go to a foreign
see
country.
Things.
And maybe it's soul searching. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just traveling, because when you get away from what you know, your brain chemistry changes. And if you're alone, your senses are that much more alert.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, man. I haven't had the chance to, I've traveled around the world with my family. I haven't been around solo yet, but I think that's huge. I think you probably learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, it's 30 days.
Yeah.
I mean, and what'll happen is in about the first 5 to the first 6 or 7, it'll be weird. The middle part will be great, and then by the third week, you'll be going, this is amazing. And then you'll start thinking, shit, I have to go home in a week.
You don't want to come back.
You don't want to come back because you're just loving every minute